looked at last lesson was how to gather data. How do we collect data? And as you might probably know already, we're doing that cycle. And after collecting your data, what we want to do would be to organize the data. Okay, and that's our big question for today. How do we organize data? Okay, so after you've collected, after you've written your survey forms, after you've collected them using a very efficient Google form, did you find that very efficient? So now we will be organizing them into a table. For now, if you notice that we've got here on the side, for now, there would be just 3 columns of that frequency distribution table. But as you learn data throughout E7, 8, 9, and 10, you will notice that these columns here would add up every single time, depending on what we need organized, what we need from this table. Okay, but for now, we'll be looking at the frequency distribution table, those that would be having just 3 columns. Okay, so how are we going to organize that into a table? So we will have to write down all the scores. So the scores, you would want to look at what's the minimum score and the maximum score. Minimum would be the lowest score, maximum would be the highest score. And then we've got the tally and then the frequency. So when we tally, we put a stick or a dash whenever we encounter that score. So for example, you would have, let's make it larger. So you would have 0, 3, 1. So you would want to go 0, 3, 1, and then 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 4, 0, 6, 4, 0, 6, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 2, 2, 0, 2, 2, 0, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3, 0, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so I've got there 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26. Now, I need to make sure that the total here would also be 26. So let me find out what's the frequency. So when you say frequency, that's the number of times that score appeared. So you've got this 7, 9, 6, 2, 1. When there's none, then you write 0. Don't leave it just blank. And then you've got 1 on the last one. And then you add them, you get what? 16, 22, 24, 25, 26. So you would want to cross-check with the raw data and the table that you have, right? So it says here, how many households were included in the survey? So from there, right, if you would just be looking at the raw data, then you won't be able to immediately tell, right? But from a frequency distribution table, you can say that there's 26 of them, right? How many households have fewer than 2 pets? So those are the number of households that had 1 or 0, right? So from here, you could say that there would be 16 households that had fewer than 2 pets. Okay, which is the most common number of pets? Which one is that? The one that's most common is it 26? I think 26 is some of the number of pets. Yeah. So, but what would be the most common number of pets? It would be what? The one with the highest frequency, which is 9. Yeah. So it would be 1. Okay. So the most common number of pets would be 1 and not 9. Yeah. So there were 9 households who had 1 pet, okay? And this is the most common number of pets, 1, right? How many households have 3 or more pets? So this time we want to count 3. So 3 or more means 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this time we'll have to add 2, 1, 0, and 1, which tells us that the answer to that is 4. right? And then the last question there, what fraction of those surveyed had no pets? So that one there would be 7, right? So that's 7 out of 26. And that's your fraction, right? What fraction of those surveyed had no pets? There were 7 out of 26. All right. Next, if we look at this raw data here, there would be 12, 11, 21, 12, 30. What do you notice? How is this raw data different from what we had previously? Again, my favorite question. What's the same? What's different? 2 digits? Yeah, so these ones were dealing with 2 digits. How else? There are more numbers, right? Not only more numbers, but what do you notice about the scores? What do you notice about the data that we've got here? What would be your lowest score? Your lowest score is? The lowest score would be? Is it 11? Yeah, the lowest score would be 11. And what's the highest score? The highest score is 62. So imagine if we construct a frequency distribution table and we wrote there what? The lowest score would be 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then down to what score? Up to 62. What do you notice about the table that we'll be creating if we do that? It's going to be a table that's going to be 1 kilometer long. Right, it's going to be very long. So our objective here as statisticians, as mathematicians, would be for us to organize the data. When you tally it and write down the frequency of how many times this score appeared, then it's not actually presenting it in a better way. It's just really like having it as a raw data, right? So your objective is to make your frequency distribution table or your data a little bit easier to read, right? So when you construct your frequency distribution table, what you need to remember is that your scores or the data that you'll be putting here would be maybe up to 7 to 8 rows. Okay, anything more than that, then you might need to group them. All right, so this is what you call a grouped frequency distribution table. Let me just write it short. Okay, so that's a group FDT. That's an example of a group one, because then you will have to group together what numbers from 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40. Okay, now again, because we're just starting to learn this, right, they've given us a guide, right, of what would be the intervals. Okay, so you call these when it's in grouped data, those are what you call your class intervals. All right, and then again, as we progress, you will find out that there should be another column here, right, which is what we call the class center, right? But for now, we'll just be looking at the class interval. We'll be tallying the number of times it appeared and then the frequency. Okay. So now we would want to write down the frequency. We've got 5, 10, 15. That's how many? 19. That's 15. That's 10. That's 7, 3, and 1. And that's 20, 30, 45. 45 plus 10 is 55. Were there 55? Can someone check, please? All right, so there's 55, and we've got that as our tally. See you all. Bye.